The next stage in our process is going to be building the foundation for this wall. So I thought I'd give you a preview of the size of the wall. So we're going to have to build a step for this foundation, as we can see here. This was an add-on from our original design. So this will be the system that drains all the water that gets trapped behind the wall like in a dam. Pushing the gravel along this foundation.
Close the door and leave the light on. The morning light should be coming soon. Kick off your shoes and leave the winter and the pain it brings to you. Lay your head upon my shoulder. Shut off your thoughts and clear your mind.
The next stage in our process is going to be building the foundation for this wall. So I thought I'd give you a preview of the size of the wall that we're building on this foundation, so you understand why we're going to be doing it so wide and deep with so much steel on it. We've bordered the foundation on this end with treated timber because it's going to be left exposed, but it still works just like a form for shaping our concrete foundation. The only difference between this and a normal formwork is we're leaving it in the ground. So we're trying to keep it all clean as we pour our foundation. And this block's sitting directly on that concrete foundation we're about to build and pour out. It's a 1 meter high wall, so it needs a strong foundation to hold it up. It's also backfilled. The part that actually holds the hillside up, the retaining part of it, is actually double the thickness of this block. These are 200mm blocks, 2 by 400mm. And so the foundation up to about this height, which I'll show you from the other side, is this wide, like 400 to 500mm wide. It also has a drainage system in it for all the water that this wall will dam up. And then over here you can see the concrete exposed because our slab is going to come up and cover that. So we're going to have to build a step for this foundation, as we can see here, because the wall height changes as we go up the hill. And there's going to be a little garden bed around this tree that also covers this part of the concrete. And this part of the foundation gets filled in with the pavement that we're going to be putting here. So we had to put steps in the foundation here in 200mm increments so our block could step up into this higher level. Yeah, and this foundation system is where it turns the corner to go uphill. And because we've got ramps wrapped around this wall, we've included these foundations for the ramp as we built our wall ramp. Just going to take a walk around our wall to give you an idea of the type of foundation we're going to have to build to hold that up. So this foundation has quite a few corners in it. Starts here, incorporated into the deck, corner here, and then a corner over here. It has a ramp system we had to incorporate here for the pathway. It made sense to pour all this out in preparation for our cement slabs that we're going to put on this ramp platform system. It gives you access to the backyard with wheelbarrows and lawnmowers and things like that. Yeah, here we are on the back side of the wall. We're going to end up with, we can see the exposed foundation that's double the thickness of our wall block. It's part of the engineering strength that stops this wall from getting pushed forward by this dirt mass. And this also contains the drainage system that catches all the water that would be dammed up here. The other foundation we're going to have to pour is the one for this little knee wall that turns back. This was an add-on from our original design to add strength and aesthetics because we're going to have a retaining wall for a garden that runs all the way along here. So we added this form before we poured this main foundation out. And these foundations were poured in stages, as I'll show you as we go through the process. We're using treated pine timber for some of the formwork in this wall, as it's going to stay in the ground and be part of the border system. We need to set this timber level in the trench we cut through the concrete earlier. We're going to start our formwork at the lowest point. And in this project, the lowest point has an open drain system because of the doorway to the shed here. So we're going to set the heights here and then know that we have to be slightly higher than this to keep all the water draining into this part of the yard. Once we're satisfied everything's square and level, We're pre-drilling and screwing these pieces together at 90 degrees to get our system started. With our corner piece locked in and level, we just continue the formwork along. Here I'm using a temporary block to join them together, because later on we'll be able to remove this block.
I offer peace and understanding for the things that you seek to find.
We continue to check our progress with our level to make sure that we're staying plumb. With the outside formwork set and level, we can move on to the wall formwork. We use our string and level to set pegs in the ground to set the line where the wall will end up being built. Our string is set between two fixed points, one end being the deck that we're going to be keeping in line with, and the other end we've set on this fence with a temporary block and some pencil marks. This string represents where the wall will end up, so our foundation has to be directly underneath this point. This end of the wall ties into the existing deck and has to line up perfectly to look good in the end. So we're using one of the treated pine timbers as our formwork here. The bottom block of the wall will be sitting exactly on top of this treated pine timber. Once this piece is level and screwed in, we can use this to set the next piece that lines up with the string we were using earlier. We only fix it with one screw so we can adjust it after checking it with our level, and then when we're satisfied it's completely plumb, we put the second screw in. We continue to add our form pieces along the wall line, directly below the string we laid out before. The form for this foundation contains steps in it. The steps raise up 200 mil from the previous form, as our blocks are 200 mil blocks. Put this corner done all the way along until the wall gets buried under the ramp over here. We also had to put some plumbing in before we get the concrete in the ground. And this will be hooked up to ag pipe once we get our foundation and wall in. So this will be the system that drains all the water that gets trapped behind the wall like in a dam. And that'll come down here. We installed this 90mm PVC pipe under our formwork so it'll get buried with the concrete and gravel. This open drain catches water off the concrete slab when it's there and sends it down the hill. In another day or so we'll be ready to start putting foundations in.
Nobody knows what's down the river's flow. Nobody feels the pain.
This morning we're putting some gravel in the bottom of this foundation just to lock the timbers in tight. We're using our wheelbarrow to bring in the gravel. We're dumping it at this convenient height so we can shovel it into our forms. Our gravel base is a critical part of the engineering of this wall system. It provides a stable base for our concrete foundation and allows water to drain underneath the concrete without erosion and causing subsidence and cracking later.
Lay your head upon my shoulder. Shut off your thoughts and clear your mind. I offer peace and understanding.
Just pushing the gravel along this foundation, get it filled in.
Nobody knows what's down the river's flow. Nobody feels the pain.
I sort of set myself an agenda to do maybe an hour of gravel shoveling and then move back to the carpentry of this formwork over here in this corner. When you have to move heavy material like this around your job site, you want to use gravity to your advantage. So it's good to have a bit of planning and stage it in the right way so you can move the gravel all downhill and not have to double handle it or move it any more than you need to. Keep shoveling it in, dumping it over here, pushing it down, pushing it around. A couple more loads, I'll have this up to the height I want. For a wall of this height and weight, we want to have about 100 mil of gravel bedding underneath it. Using our shovel and rake, we just work the gravel through this trench system so we get a nice even coverage. The extra raking of this material has a process. It's helping the fine material drop to the bottom of the system to create really good compaction for our foundation. Mix gravel with rock dust in it so it compacts really tight, but water can still sort of move through it without creating erosion.
Nobody knows how to stem the river's flow. Are you strong enough to break these chains? Are you strong enough to break these chains?
That's pretty much enough gravel for the moment. Got a temporary block here to help hold it all together. I want to get to building this formwork that's behind you at the moment. Well, that'll be our next job today. It doesn't rain on us. One of the challenges on this particular job site is that we're building a wall and a foundation right in the middle of our only access point. So I'm going to construct a temporary step so we can move materials and tools in safely. We're going to temporarily fill up our forms here for our foundation so we can put some timber steps here, and later we'll have to remove this out of our way for when we pour our concrete. We had a little bit more dirt and gravel to remove from this area to finish our formwork.
And the pain it brings to you. Lay your head upon my shoulder. Shut off your thoughts and clear your mind. I offer peace and understanding for the things that you seek to find.
Then I took a break to appreciate the local Corellas that come by and harass me every morning.
Nobody feels the pain. Nobody knows how to stem the river's flow. Are you strong enough to break these chains? Are you strong enough to break these chains? Nobody knows how to stem the river's flow. Nobody feels the pain.
We're about to put the gravel in, then the steel reinforcement, and eventually the concrete. These forms are for the ramp system that wraps around the outside corner of the wall. It made sense to put these footings in at the same time as the wall footings so we could tie everything together in one big structure for extra strength and integrity.
Nobody knows how to stem the river's flow. Are you strong enough to break these chains? Are you strong enough to break these chains? Close the door and leave the light off. The morning light should be coming soon.
With all our timber forms and gravel complete, we're ready to add our steel reinforcement and prepare for concrete. On the next episode, we cover all the installation of our steel reinforcement and our final preparation for pouring concrete.
Nobody knows how to stem the river's flow. Nobody feels the pain. Nobody knows how to stem the river's flow. Are you strong enough to break these chains?
Thanks for joining me this week on my YouTube channel. Check the link below, and while you're at it, hit the subscribe button or make a comment so I can help you with your future construction solutions. And don't forget to follow our channel for more ideas and how-to tips for home and garden projects.